Welcome. This is DVD number 2 for the season for Nonviolence 2022. So I'm here again with Bianca and Aaron, and I'm Jonathan. So today's DVD is going to be about conflict. So in Kenyan Nonviolence, we look at conflict as neutral. Conflict is not bad. Conflict is not good. It's how we respond to conflict that makes it good or bad. Things like yelling, things like fighting are not conflict. Those are what happens when conflict is mismanaged. So what we're going to do here on this DVD, we got some 3 questions. We're going to go around and we're going to ask each other these 3 questions, and then we're going to answer them. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Aaron, and you can start us off.
All right. Hello, folks. First question to get us started, and Bianca, I'm going to ask this question of you. What did you learn about conflict growing up? And actually, as an add-on to that, what were you taught about conflict?
So what I remember learning or being taught about conflict and taught in a sense that no one ever talked to me about conflict, or that was never like a lesson in school we learned, like social emotional learning about, like you said, Jonathan, conflict is something neutral. It comes up. It's just how we respond to it that, offers an outcome. So I was never actually taught, but how grown-ups or my peers or my friends responded to conflict taught me something about conflict. And usually what I witnessed, especially in my own family dynamic, was, or maybe also in media and TV shows that I was watching as a child, was that conflict is something that needs to be avoided. It is negative, it is bad. And especially when there is conflict, someone's going to win and someone's going to lose. Someone's right, someone's wrong. So ideally, I wanted to be the one right? I didn't want to lose. So I developed, I think, as a child and as a teenager, especially, strategies that were not very helpful. Like what I specifically remember is that one strategy was just, if in order to win, I have to make a winning argument. I have to talk over people. I have to talk very fast. And I never really paused to listen. And I just wanted to always have power over through how I communicated, I guess. And family dynamics and hierarchies in society contributed to that for sure as well. Age differences and so forth. So long story to a small question, I guess. So I'm curious, Jonathan, what did you learn about conflict growing up, or what were you taught?
Growing up, I learned that conflict is fighting and yelling. And you don't run from conflict. You go right to conflict. And if somebody's violent with you, you be violent back with them. And I learned that not from my mother, not from my father. I didn't grow up with my father. I learned that from my older brothers. Yeah, it was like, you don't run from nobody. You don't take no stuff from nobody. You do what you got to do. So I was always taught that conflict means fighting, and that's how I dealt with conflict, fighting and yelling. How about you, Aaron?
Yeah, I was thinking about this listening to the two of your answers. I think that a message that I got coming up, like from my parents, was probably don't sweat the small stuff.
Mm.
I also got the message about don't let anybody punk you, don't back down, and that was the approach taken in the neighborhood that I grew up in. And I think I also got the message that when it is a conflict, to try and end it, like to get it done. Like it's not something to mess around with if it's really serious. So Yeah, those I had kind of that mix of messaging coming up.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um,
Yeah, I'll
well,
pass the
yeah,
mic to you.
thanks, Erin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to be introducing the next question, which is interesting. It's what are some things you tend to do in conflict that somehow always seem to make it worse? Or, what are some strategies you use that just don't work a lot? Can you recall some of those, Jonathan?
Yes. I mean, one of the things that immediately comes to mind is like yelling back. So when I'm in a conflict, if somebody is yelling at me, then I'm gonna just yell back and try to like out yell them. So that usually don't work. And then I'm a question the facts of the conflict. I say stuff like, come on, man, just keep it real, man, just keep it real. I mean, like, be honest. I mean, like, you know what the truth is. Yeah, and I realized that never worked. It just kept the conflict going on and on and on because we can't agree on what the truth is. What is the truth? Who started it? Why are we even in the conflict in the first place? So yeah, it just went on and on. No resolution. How about you, Aaron?
I think I have a tendency to be lawyerly and have,
Mm.
to be kind of a stickler for for the facts, for what I see as the facts, or if I feel like I have a point that is just irrefutable or obvious, while
Mm.
I won't necessarily like keep hitting them over the head with that, I will let it be known that's my position on it, and sometimes that's not what's most important, and I usually remember that after the fact. So,
Mm. Mm.
what about you, Bianca?
Um, Obviously, I don't want to admit it, but I think I have a great degree in judging. Like I can get very judgy and voice that, and I react instead of responding. So I don't even take a pause. I just respond right back or react right back. There's a difference, I guess. But yeah, so I judge and react. Yeah.
Mm. Mm. All right. So we talked about what doesn't work. So now let's talk about what works. So the question is, what has worked instead of the strategies we used in the previous question that don't work? What strategies can you name that have worked when you're in conflict? We're gonna start with you, Aaron.
Kind of the opposite of what I described. Whereas it's easy for me to get into the lawyer mode and make my points and try and make it in a way that I think demonstrates the validity of what I'm saying over versus what they're saying. If I take the approach of actually taking in what is being said to me, repeating back the central elements of it to let them know that I'm listening to them, um, that at least signals understanding, and it kind of opens the door to talking about the areas that are more in dispute. It's on you, Bianca.
Yeah, also kind of the opposite of what I expressed, of what I've been taught and what doesn't work. So instead of wanting to win, I remind myself that I want to look for understanding and not agreement. Like the end goal is not necessarily, I mean, ideally we agree on something, but often in really, really intense conflicts that I've experienced in my life, we probably don't agree and won't agree. And it's about understanding each other on a deeper level. And just coming in with that mindset changes a lot for me. Um, and also the other one, instead of like reacting to respond, what really helps me is to take a break, like to just not like leave the room, whatever is going on, just take a pause. And sometimes just a minute or two help. Take a couple of deep breaths. That doesn't work, however, if someone tells me to take a deep breath. That usually someone tells me just take a deep breath, I get even more somehow like, oh, don't tell me what to do kind of thing. But yeah, if I remind myself, just take a pause, take a deep breath, come back, so much can shift within a minute. So yeah, these are the two strategies that have worked in the past that I'm still, exploring and having to practice for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's me, Jonathan.
Mhm.
What has worked for you?
All right. All right. So, I mean, one strategy that definitely works for me is that I listen. I listen to what the other person's talking about. And then, like, I own up to my role in the conflict. So, I mean, I'm not blaming them for the conflict, anything like that. So, I'm listening. I'm admitting to what I've done in the conflict, and if necessary, I just apologize. I just apologize, and then I mean, I try to work with the person to find a solution. Like, all right, well, let's find a solution to this. Because one thing I realized, and I think that you both said that, but I know you mentioned it also, Bianca, is about winning. When I'm in a conflict, I don't want to. I used to have that position also when I was arguing with people that I just want to win the argument, And then I started to think about it. I read somewhere where it says that uh, is winning the argument as important as the relationship with the person you're having the argument with.
Mhm.
And I was like, you know what? Yeah, that right there is right. If winning the argument means that me and this person isn't going to be as cool or tight as we used to be prior to the argument, I'd rather just work with that person and just, try to work through whatever issues that we may have so that afterward we could still maintain a strong, deep relationship. And so, yeah, so that's right there is what's important to me right now. And also, I mentioned earlier about conflict and what about conflict being neutral and all that. And there's different levels of conflict also. Like the first level is normal conflict, like everyday stuff that goes on in your life that you done learned through maturity on how to handle it. You'd be like, you know what, that ain't nothing. The next level is pervasive conflict. That's where it's a little bit tension. That's where it may be some history. Maybe it's somebody that owes you some money. They've been telling you that they're going to pay you and they ain't paid you. It's been weeks and weeks. They still haven't paid you. Now the weeks done turned into months. That's building up. That right there could be pervasive. And that's where somebody may have to come in and intervene because that conflict could lead to something physical. It could be some harm that could take place. And then the last one is overt. Overt is when the tension is real high, like somebody definitely has to intervene and stop it because tension is high. And the reason why I mention these levels is because when I'm dealing with a conflict situation, if I'm at a pervasive level or an overt level, I just remove myself from the situation. And I heard both of y'all say that earlier also, because it's why am I going to stand here and talk or try to work through this situation and I'm furious. I'm angry and I'm like, no, that's not going to work. Let me go, take a little break, calm down first, and then come back. And then once I come back, then I got an open attitude, all right, then you know what? Let's work this out. Because in my mind, the relationship is more important than us that's arguing and beefing and things like that.
Mhm.
Any other comments that you want to say about think about it like this. Do you have you seen other people in your life use strategies that you may not have used, but you'd be like, you know what, that right there worked. I mean, that right there is good. Maybe I'll try that. Have you had an experience like that? Any you, Bianca, or you, Aaron?
Yeah, and I also just want to appreciate what you said about the power of apology because being able to bring yourself to apologize in the height
Mm,
of conflict is like a powerful,
mm-hmm,
um, it changes the dynamic. You know what I mean? That's
mm-hmm,
like a powerful
mm-hmm,
thing to be able to do. Um, yeah. So one tactic or something that I've seen, I think probably seen my mother do this is just modulating her tone of voice, changing her tone of voice. So if it's been escalating, getting all, getting hectic, and then you're able to just ratchet it down and bring it in and make your tone civil again. It's like without saying the words, you're bringing the temperature down. So that's one thing that I've found that I've seen work, that I'm trying to put into my toolkit.
Mm. Mm.
I really appreciate the question. I think there's a lot of examples, but the one that has impacted me the most is that when I was at my worst behavior, and I'm not really proud of how I reacted or how I responded, and there's kind of like shame attached, that someone would come and really acknowledge that they see that something really matters to me that is not being seen right now. So even, giving me the courtesy of, okay, I really do deeply believe in your best self right now, even though you're not showing it to me right now. And I'm going to remind you of that, what you actually value. And it also seems like you're upset about something. So some kind of mix of reflecting back to me what they assume or guess I'm needing right now was what's not kind of met, and reminding me of who they know I am and my best self. So that's been very powerful to me. And I think back to what we talked about earlier about winning and losing is like, you want to win because the alternative is losing. And what I've been taught definitely by society is if you lose, you get punished. So there's like this punitive thing, like if you do something wrong or if you mess up, you get punished for something. So yeah, having also models in my life that show me that even though I mess up, I'm not getting punished. I'm show you radical love and compassion because I deeply believe in who you can be. So yeah, that's how about you, Jonathan?
Well, one of the strategies that my aunt uses on me, well, it works on me because I'd be like speechless, is that she uses humor. We could be like in a conflict. It's not even, when I be looking back at it, it's not even like the joke or I mean, whatever she says is not really like funny, but it's just like unexpected. She'll just throw that up in there and it'll just catch me off guard. And I'd be like, what? And then, then at that moment, I just seem to like calm down a couple of degrees. And then once I calm down, I'm thinking clearly, and then I'm able to like work through it. So so I think that she got me figured out with that tactic there. And I mean, like, I'm gonna just throw some humor at him. That right there is gonna get him off his game. But it seems to work. Now I haven't tried it in a conflict, but I'm working up to that. I'm gonna have to working up to that because for some reason I think that, if I'm in a conflict and I could just like use if I'm like cool and calm enough to be able to like insert some humor, I think that right there will work. So I mean, so now what we're thinking is the same questions that we just asked. We want to ask all of you men that's listening to this DVD. So we're gonna like review those questions that you can remember. And what we want you to do is answer these questions, send them to whoever you have to send them to, and then they're going to send the questions to us. And then the next DVD number 3, and then DVD number 4, we want to start reciting some of those strategies and so some of those good ideas that you came up with so that others listening to it could be like, oh, I didn't think about that. So now when I'm in a conflict, I can use what somebody else done said in the next conflict that I'm in. So you'll be sharing out, teaching each other some effective strategies on how you deal with conflict. And then if you have any questions for Arun Gandhi or any questions for us about the C's of nonviolence, or anything like that, please feel free to also answer that. And just like last year's video series, whoever has the best questions will get a signed copy of Arun Gandhi's book. So those questions are, the first question was, what did you learn about conflict growing up? What were you taught about conflict? You want to read the next question?
Yeah. What are some things you tend to do in conflict that always seem to make it worse? Or what are some strategies you use that just don't work a lot? And Aaron, do you want to read out the last one we asked?
Sure. We had 4 questions that we ultimately tackled. The third was, what are some strategies in conflict that do work well for you? So you had the ones that didn't work, and what are some that do? And then back over to you, Jonathan, for the last one.
Yes. What are some strategies you've seen other people use in conflict that you think work well and you want to adopt? And so maybe that could be after you hear what others say, like, you know what, I like that strategy. I'm going to use that. Thank you again for participating in the season of Nonviolence 2022. And be safe and talk to you next DVD series.
Thank you, everyone.